All right, let's dive right into this explainer by dissecting one of the absolute wildest moments in internet history, the Kony 2012 campaign. Listen, long before TikTok trends, cancel culture, or influencer activism were even a thing, there was this 27-minute video by a group called Invisible Children. Now, if you're in high school today, the internet of 2012 probably seems like the Stone Age, right? But the strategies this group used, they completely rewrote the rulebook on how young people, social media, and global politics all interact.
So, here is the massive question we're looking at today. Can a viral internet trend actually end a war? We're going to objectively analyze how a group of filmmakers honestly believe that digital tools could literally force the US military into action. They didn't just want to raise awareness, they wanted to weaponize our everyday desire to connect online to hunt down a warlord.
To figure out how they did it, we're going to break this explainer down into 6 key phases. We'll look at the warlord and the idea, how they bypassed media gatekeepers, their specific fame formula, the April 20th campaign, how they shifted US foreign policy, and finally, the ethics of branding a war criminal.
So let's jump straight into phase 1, the problem they were desperately trying to solve. They were targeting an indicted warlord who was entirely off the radar of the American public. His name was Joseph Kony. He was the leader of a rebel group in Central Africa known as the Lord's Resistance Army, or the LRA. And the thing is, he wasn't fighting for some grand political cause. He was just fighting to maintain his own power, operating completely in the shadows. He was effectively invisible.
Now, timing was absolutely everything for this movement. Look at this timeline. Way back in 2002, the International Criminal Court made Kony their very first indicted criminal for crimes against humanity. Flash forward to late 2011, and the U.S. sends a small group of about 100 military advisors to Central Africa. But the filmmakers knew that without massive, overwhelming public pressure, those advisors could just be pulled out the very next day. So they planted a massive flag in the year 2012. It was a hard deadline. Make this guy famous right now or lose the chance forever.
And the reason for that urgency? 30,000. That is the staggering number of children abducted over 26 years into Kony's army, used as child soldiers and slaves. The human face of this statistic during the campaign was a young Ugandan boy named Jacob, who filmmaker Jason Russell actually met running for his life. Jacob's brother was brutally killed by the LRA with a panga, which is a type of machete. And Jacob was so traumatized, he literally told Russell he would rather die than stay on Earth. It was this horrific reality of 30,000 stolen childhoods that fueled the campaign's absolute drive to make Kony visible to the world.
All right, moving into phase 2, how they got the message out. Welcome to what they called Facebook world. Back in 2012, if you wanted the world to care about an issue, you usually had to go beg major news networks to cover it. But Invisible Children realized the game had completely changed.
The power structure had totally inverted, right? In the old world, a few wealthy people in suits dictated what mattered, and it was all based on national borders. But in this new Facebook world, which had about 750 million users at the time, people didn't care about borders anymore. They were this massive global community that could organize, share ideas, and act without ever asking traditional media for permission.
And to mobilize high schoolers, they didn't just ask for passive likes or retweets. They created physical action kits full of posters and bracelets. And get this, the bracelets had unique ID numbers you could register online. You could literally slap a poster on a stop sign in your hometown, geotag it, and track your physical impact on a global map in real time. They even got teens to fund the whole thing by donating a few dollars a month through a program called Try. It was literally a masterclass in turning casual scrollers into a funded, active, and traceable youth army.
Which brings us to phase 3, the fame formula. The creators knew a single viral video wasn't going to be enough. They needed a targeted strike on culture itself to guarantee Joseph Kony's name became inescapable.
They mapped out this highly engineered theory of change. Step 1, target 20 culture makers to make society actually care. Step 2, target 12 policymakers who literally hold the power to act. And Step 3, unleash that massive youth army to pressure them relentlessly until they cave.
Let's talk about those culture makers. We're talking Oprah, Mark Zuckerberg, Ryan Seacrest, Bono. One of the filmmakers bluntly stated, if our goal is to get Kony's name known, the known should join us. The logic was brilliant and simple. If Oprah or Bono tweets about Joseph Kony, millions of people instantly listen, entirely bypassing the evening news cycle. They hijacked celebrity culture to shine a spotlight on human rights.
Okay, phase 4. Digital activism gets brushed off a lot as just clicking a button, right? Well, this campaign had a very specific plan to drag the internet
into the physical streets on one specific date. They called it Cover the Night. This was designed to be the absolute climax of the movement. The idea was that the world would go to sleep on a Friday night and wake up on Saturday to see hundreds of thousands of posters, stickers, and yard signs dominating their cities. It was undeniable physical proof of the internet's power, literally forcing everyone, especially politicians, to wake up and look Kony in the face.
But let's be real, all of those bracelets and celebrity tweets had one very traditional target: the United States government. A Facebook post can't arrest a warlord. They needed the U.S. military. And for years, Washington politicians claimed that intervening in Central Africa was just impossible. The filmmakers noted they spoke to members of every administration, and the answer was always the same: it wasn't a priority. There was no economic upside, no oil, and Kony didn't pose a direct threat to American soil. Historically, the U.S. just wouldn't get involved.
But you guys, the crazy thing is, the strategy actually worked. In October 2011, the White House announced that U.S. troops would deploy as advisors. President Obama explicitly stated he authorized forces to help the countries of the region end this threat. The campaign heralded this as completely historic. It was military action driven not by national security, not by financial gain, but simply because a massive wave of regular citizens demanded it.
So how did they force Washington's hand? They knew a little secret. Just 25 phone calls in a single day makes a politician sit up and take notice. So they aimed a complete fire hose of digital activism at 12 key lawmakers. They made it insanely easy for students to call, write, and request meetings. They knew that in an election year, a unified youth army demanding justice was a bipartisan issue no politician could afford to ignore.
Finally, Phase 6. We have to critically examine the deeply uncomfortable paradox at the very heart of this entire movement. We are so used to campaigns that raise awareness for victims, right? But Kony 2012 took a wildly different approach. The filmmakers openly stated their goal was to make a ruthless warlord as famous as a Hollywood star. They weren't celebrating him, obviously, but the tactic was surreal. They used the exact same psychological hooks, merch drops, and aggressive hype marketing you'd see for a sneaker release or a pop album, but applied them to a man who enslaved 30,000 kids. They intentionally redefined propaganda. Which leaves us with this massive question as we wrap up this explainer. While Kony 2012 undeniably altered U.S. foreign policy at the time, it forces us to look in the mirror. When we turn human rights abuses into viral, highly branded content, are we truly understanding the complexities of the conflict, or are we just participating in a massive global trend? Next time you see a massive activism push on your feed, ask yourself, what is the true cost of making a warlord famous?